You are listening to the Hero's Journey podcast. I'm Dan Zarzana.
And I'm Jeff Garvin.
Let the journey begin. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hero's Journey podcast, where we discuss your favorite stories through the lens of Joseph Campbell's monomyth, as well as Christopher Vogler's modern cinema-focused adaptation, as presented in his book, The Writer's Journey.
This month, Dan and I are observing our 30-year high school reunion.
Huh? What's that you say?
It's just insane. We walked across the field to pomp and circumstance in our green robes and mortarboards in June of 1994.
My goodness.
We know it's a well-established joke that we do a lot of 90s movies on this podcast, but really, that is listener and patron Chad Pauly's fault.
Yep.
We always include non-90s options, but Pauly's pollsters persistently pound the pavement persuading people to vote for the 90s movie. However, this month we are focusing on movies we loved the summer we graduated high school back in 1994. Thank you for indulging us.
In third place, with 25% of the vote, was The Crow, starring Brandon Lee in his final role. Jeff, that film's soundtrack lived in my car forever after I saw the movie. If I checked in my glove box right now, the CD is probably still in there.
Mine too. I think I had it in the little sleeve that you strapped to your sun visor.
Yeah.
Along with REM's Monster and several other.
Oh, man. Second place went to the Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock runaway bus actioner Speed, which earned 30% of the vote. And the winner, with 45% of the vote, is James Cameron's True Lies.
True Lies was released on July 15, 1994, knocking Forrest Gump out of the number one position. Written and directed by James Cameron, True Lies earned more than $378 million against a $115 million production budget. This was the first motion picture ever with a production budget of $100 million, making it the most expensive movie ever made at the time. Previous holder of that crown, also James Cameron, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. A year later, the disastrous Waterworld became the most expensive movie ever made, an honor it enjoyed until James Cameron snatched it back with Titanic.
Yep.
Go James.
Yeah, I mean, the man makes incredibly expensive movies, but that also have raked in multiple billions with a B dollars over his career. The man makes movies that make money.
Yeah, he does.
Following the release of Terminator 2 Judgment Day, James Cameron had intended to make, and I want to see this version.
I can't believe when you wrote this out. It blows my mind.
An R-rated Spider-Man movie that he had written, starring Leonardo DiCaprio as Peter Parker and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Dr. Octopus.
If ever there was a use for AI recreating younger actors, I think both Schwarzenegger and DiCaprio should sign on for that.
I would have really enjoyed that movie. However, when Carolco Pictures wanted to do the film with a much smaller budget than Cameron had requested, Cameron dropped the idea. Schwarzenegger then saw a 1991 French film called La Totale, which is translated to The Jackpot, and he asked James Cameron if they could make a secret agent movie like that. Cameron liked the idea. Bing, bang, boom, popcorn. True Lies stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Arnold, Art Malik, Bill Paxton, Tia Carrere, one of the it girls of the 1990s, Eliza Dushku, and Grant Heslov.
The film was nominated for one Academy Award, with John Bruno, Thomas L. Fisher, Jacques Stroweis, and Pat McClung earning a nod for Best Visual Effects. The effects team from Forrest Gump took home the Oscar that night because of the incredible hairier scenes that were in that film, apparently. They stick Tom Hanks in a video with Nixon or something, and that's better than... Anyway. Jamie Lee Curtis won the Golden Globe for Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical. Well deserved. Holy crap, is she funny in this movie.
She was great in this movie.
Unbelievable. Despite the 30-week shooting schedule, oh my God, and challenging conditions, Jamie Lee Curtis said True Lies was without question the greatest experience of my professional life so far.
All right, Jeff, get your cover story straight, tighten up your tango, and charge those camcorder batteries. This is the hero's journey of True Lies.
Act 1 of the hero's journey begins with the ordinary world, where we see our character in their status quo normal life. Dan,
here we go.
Before I dive in, I just want to say this is one of those movies that I thought was going to be pow, pow, pow easy, and I did not find it easy at all.
Uh-huh.
But here we go. Harry Tasker is a super spy for a clandestine national security agency called Omega Sector, a secret he keeps even from his wife of 15 years who thinks he's a computer salesman with a boring job. Harry stops terrorists for a living, and he's very dedicated to his job, so much so that he's become an absentee husband and father. Now, the sequences in which we learn all this information are classic James Cameron. Like, let's get to the action. I want gunfire and explosions in the character development, and it's so great. So, in an opening sequence reminiscent of the James Bond franchise, including pulling off a wetsuit to reveal an unrumpled tuxedo, and assault rifle wielding bad guys on skis.
Yep.
We meet Harry as he infiltrates a chateau in the Swiss Alps to steal encrypted computer files from a billionaire and suspected arms dealer, Jamal Khalid, or Khalid, or Khalid, depending on whom you ask.
Depending on whether or not the dialogue coach was on set that day or not.
I don't know. I think they're all character-appropriate mispronunciations, you know, because like our techie guy who looks vaguely Middle Eastern pronounces it correctly, and then Arnold is whatever Arnold says, and then Tom Arnold is like Khalid. So I don't know. I thought it was... Harry is supported by his bestie, Albert Gibson, a fellow agent, played by Tom Arnold, and Faisal, played by Grant Heslov, the techie guy who does all the typing and looking at a screen and, you know, the remote computer stuff.
Intense typing intensifies.
My friend Scott Sattenspiel always said that if I had continued to be an actor, that would have been my destiny, is to be that guy on a procedural crime show.
Harsh.
I don't know. I think it would have been fun, you know, pretending to see something. I'm enhancing. So after finding the target computer and plugging in his serial modem, by the way, I stopped and started that plug-in sequence because I'm pretty sure that was a PS2 plug. Do you remember those sort of circular multi-pin things? I'm pretty sure that was a PS2 modem. God, what a nerd.
The fact that you paused, you went, wait a minute. Oh my God,
Dan,
Jeffrey.
The number of details I have missed in this movie that you're going to call out, just know that that's what's important to me in a film, is what kind of terminus did that plug have?
And you're always getting on me about picking up on the wrong details.
It's true. Well,
being interested in the wrong thing.
You know, I blame you. It's rubbed off on me.
I trained you well.
Anyway, after plugging in whatever plug he plugged in to get that modem attached, he goes downstairs and flirts with Juno Skinner, played by Tia Carrera, an arts and antiquities dealer specializing in relics from ancient Persia. But the guards get wise and they start looking for him. So he pulls Juno onto the dance floor for a very fun and very sexy tango scene. Meanwhile, back in the van, Fast Faisal facilitates filching the files.
Whoa!
Harry gets Juno's car. Harry gets Juno's card, blows some stuff up, and makes his escape through the snow, pursued by Dobermans, which he clonks their heads together and drops them to the... That's something I watched again and again, too. He had like rubber dogs or something.
I loved the rubber Dobermans.
Fall to the ground.
Stay.
Oh. And the aforementioned gun-wielding skiers give pursuit.
Sir, may I see your invitation, please?
Sure. Here's my invitation. Slight change in plans.
When it's all over, Harry returns home, where we meet his sweet suburban wife, Jamie Lee Curtis, and his ungrateful, delinquent daughter, played by Eliza Dushku. We see his normal domestic routine and how he constantly lies to his wife and doesn't pay her enough attention. The next morning, Gibb picks him up, and the two of them, wearing suits and carrying briefcases like businessmen in the 90s used to do, back in the 1900s, kids. They head to a typical-looking office building. But it's a front, Dan! It is not a normal office building. It is the headquarters. They have to go through an X-ray hall, and they do both a palm and a retina scan. Not just a retina scan, a la James Bond, a palm and a retina scan.
And a vocal.
And a vocal, yes, because not all of those three things are unique to people, even though they are. Anyway, it's very overkill. And they enter the headquarters of Omega Sector, the last line of defense. Dan, that is where I drew the line of the ordinary world.
Did you notice that when they are being X-ray scanned, that X-ray scan is very reminiscent of
Total Recall.
The Total Recall X-ray scan? There was another reference, maybe, that I saw when Gibb picks up Harry, and Harry, using this new spy gadget that Gibb gives him, sees his daughter stealing money from his jacket before she leaves for school.
Right.
And she runs out. He pursues her out the front door. She runs, jumps on the back of the motorcycle, and speeds off. It's very similar to in Terminator 2 when John Connor's foster father, Todd, runs out the front door trying to get John's attention, and he jumps onto a motorcycle and speeds off. So I wonder if that scene was intentionally a reference to the scene in Terminator 2, or if it's just James Cameron likes having kids run away on motorcycles.
He always wanted to ride a motorcycle as a kid, so he's like, I'm going to put it in every movie.
The next segment is the call to adventure. The hero is presented with a challenge which renders him unable to continue living in the comfort of the ordinary world. So now, within the secret offices of Omega Sector, in a fishbowl conference room, the boss, Spencer Trilby, played by Charlton Heston in an uncredited role.
That's right, Dan. You can take this Trilby out of my cold, dead hands.
That's not bad. That's not a bad Heston.
I didn't practice. And if we don't get some Schwarzenegger out of you, I'm quitting the podcast.
Trilby is unhappy with the outcome of the events in Switzerland. Faisal tries to save the situation by presenting the data that the team did manage to acquire while on the job. They've discovered that the suspected arms dealer Jamal Khaled has wired $100 million through the Commerce Bank International, which, as Gibb explains, is a front for the finance of terrorist activities. So they think something big is going down, particularly because also 4 MIRV warheads were smuggled out of Kazakhstan. They think Khaled's group bought them and are planning to bring them to the United States. Trilby is not impressed. He wants hard data.
Who knew that Heston was going to be the impression of the episode, everybody?
Do you have any hard data?
Well, nothing that you would call rock hard.
Actually, it's pretty limp, sir.
Then perhaps you better get some before somebody parks an automobile in front of the White House with a nuclear weapon in the trunk.
An automobile.
That is the call to adventure right there. That is Trilby's delivery.
I saw one other call. So there's a call for him to reunite with his family as a father and husband. And
yes,
that's another sort of deeper hero's journey here in addition to the action story. And I think he receives a romantic call from Helen. The first hint of it is when he's getting ready for work the morning after he returns from the Swiss Alps. And she's telling him about, oh yeah, the plumber has to come and he's going to charge us $600. And he's clearly saying, he's doing, yes, honey, that's fine, dear. And she says, I told him if I'd sleep with him and he'd knock off $100. And he says, that's good thinking. So he's not paying attention to her at all. So she's trying to ping him to get him back to the world. And then, but the real call comes when he's working and she calls him to make sure he's going to be home for his birthday dinner. I mean, this is even a night that's about him, and says, will you be? And he says, yes, absolutely.
I promise you can count on me.
Exactly right. That brings us to refusal of the call. Confronted with fear of the unknown, our hero refuses the call. Sometimes this energy is expressed from within the hero, sometimes from without. Now, as far as the action mission, the terrorist fighting mission, I didn't see any refusal from Harry from within.
No. He is so dedicated to his job, like you said, in the Ordinary World segment, and he's good. He's really good at his job.
Yeah. Harry does refuse the romantic call, the father-husband call. Even though he tells Helen, you can count on me, he ditches his family at the first opportunity to do more work. On their way home, Gibb notices they're being followed and he offers to lose the tail. But Harry says, no, we need the lead. And then when Gibb says, Harry, Helen's going to be pissed, he doubles down. He is resisting that call to be a better husband and father from the beginning.
Ooh. Okay. I agree with you, but not the placement of...
I gave it double duty, so I think I know what you're gonna... I know what you're gonna say, because I agree that it's also...
Okay. During the discussion with Trilby in the Omega Sector offices, we also cut to Helen in her office break room, commiserating with her coworker.
It's not like he's saving the world or anything. I mean, he's a sales rep, for Christ's sake. Whenever I can't sleep, I just ask him to tell me about his day. 6 seconds and I'm out. But he acts like he's curing cancer or something.
So I guess this means you didn't get away for the weekend after all.
No, he had to go out of town.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, well, you know Harry.
This is a repeat occurrence. Helen's getting tired of it. Harry's marriage is on shaky ground.
Right.
And this is going to be a distraction for Harry throughout the film as he not only tries to save the world, but his marriage as well.
So it's not refusal in the romantic, it's a refusal in the mission, the anti-terrorist.
Yeah. It's established as a part of his world of common day that he's already refusing to engage in being a husband and a father because he's so engrossed in his work.
Yeah, I know, that's interesting.
Almost
I like that.
Necessarily. I mean, the man fights terrorism. You got to skip some band recitals in that situation.
Yeah.
The next segment of the hero's journey is meeting with the mentor. The hero receives counsel on how to operate in the special world. We often talk about research, scenes, representing mentorship. Harry and his team dig deeper into Khaled, and this is where they discover the $2 million payment to Juno Skinner.
Right.
But Harry wants to investigate Juno Skinner more, and Faisal tells him that she's got an office right here in River City, which I looked up. River City? Is it a slang term for, like New York is the Big Apple, or...
It's a joke from The Music Man. We got trouble right here in River City.
Oh my gosh.
With a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool. That's...
Wow.
Maybe I'm just a theater nerd, and that's why I called that out. Maybe that's not how
that could be. I don't know. That means Faisal's a theater nerd.
Yeah.
Well, so anyway, it was this digging up of new information that connects Juno Skinner to Khaled. That's the next clue that pushes them on.
So I saw a couple things. I had mentioned the scene where Gibb is giving him marital advice, like, hey, Helen's going to be pissed if you work again. Later on, when Harry finds out that Helen is cheating, or he perceives that she's cheating, Gibb is like, I told you, this is how it goes, and here's how you deal with it. So he's kind of like the marriage mentor. And then there's also a scene where he's kind of like Q from James Bond, where he's like, here's your ID, here's your phone, here's your hotel reservations, and then he quizzes Harry on his backstory. So he's kind of like serving that quartermaster role. And then I think you mentioned this. There's some stuff with Nick Fury, Trilby.
Yep.
Where he's, pushing him toward the adventure. So I think we're on the same page. Well, that brings us to crossing of the threshold. The hero must pass a special barrier to enter the special world. This crossing represents the hero's commitment to taking on the adventure. So for me, Harry crosses the threshold when he accepts Spencer Trilby's challenge to go find some hard data. He goes to Juno Skinner's office art warehouse under the guise of shopping for a client. And she flirts with him by bragging about stealing cultural artifacts. That's a weird flex, but it was 94. It was a little more acceptable. And then he crosses the threshold of his husband-father journey when he drops by Helen's office to invite her to lunch. That's what I saw as crossing the threshold.
Okay. I saw one more, and that is after Harry has left Juno's office. Juno is in presumably her main office, and one of the men from the warehouse asks very respectfully, Miss Skinner, may I speak with you, please? And Juno's assistant leaves. The man closes the door and slaps the snot out of Juno.
Oh my God, what a slap.
And calls her stupid, undisciplined B-word. And it is very clear that this is not just a warehouse worker. This man's in charge.
Yeah.
And he says,
Do you realize there are surveillance teams watching this place right now? Your telephones are almost certainly tapped. And you were busy laughing and flirting like a whore with this Rehnquist.
You checked out okay?
We do not tolerate mistakes.
What would you like me to do?
Find out where this Rehnquist is.
this guy is in this position, the role, not only is he in the role of a Threshold Guardian, but the Threshold Guardian is on the hunt. Now, the Threshold is crossing over Harry, not the other way around.
The darkness is consuming the hero.
Right.
I love that.
That was the end of my Crossing the Threshold, the end of my Act 1.
Tia Carrera gets destroyed and she gets slapped 3 times. And by the way, her reaction to the slap is so authentic. I was like, that, wow.
Did she tell Art Malik, just clock me, make it look real? Or was that just a really good theater or a stage slap?
And then she gets cracked on the head with like a champagne bottle. I mean, she gets abused in this movie.
Yeah, she gets
Tough.
beat up in this one.
Tough lady. All right,
And
well.
still manages to be gorgeous the entire time.
Yep. Her hair does not get messed up. All right, well.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
That's Act 1 for you, people. We're going to slip into our booth at the Campbell Cafe for some side quests.
Jeff, what have you been up to? What side quests have you engaged in?
The one that really stuck with me is I read The Giver by Lois Lowry.
What?
Now, this is a book that 6th graders read.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I missed it. I guess it's kind of after our time a little bit, but it's a dystopian fantasy about a future world where society is obsessed with safety and control. And so they've removed emotions, they've removed color, they've removed interacting with other communities. It's kind of a chosen one story. A boy is born with some special abilities, and he is given the task of receiving from the previous giver the memories of history. And for the first time, he feels emotions and experiences pain. And obviously, it changes him. And it's one of those books where the reader knows more about the world than the character does, because we're in this tension of, well, we know how the world is supposed to be, and he doesn't. So as he's discovering how the world is supposed to be, we're ahead of him. But somehow, everything that happens to him, however inevitable, is surprising. And the last 50 pages of that book will rip your heart right out of your chest. And I'm almost glad I read it as an adult, because there's so much there that I would have missed as a kid, or that I wouldn't have appreciated as a kid. So it's a really short book. It's a really fast read. I highly recommend it. You can read it in a day or two. And it's really 5 stars on my list of really, really great books, and certainly in the top of the dystopian category. I mean, it's got a little bit of Brave New World, but it's YA, so it's fabulous. I can't recommend it highly enough. Go read The Giver by Lois Lowry. Dan, what side quests have you taken?
I watched a Netflix series called Ripley.
Oh, I want to watch that.
Is based on the Patricia Highsmith Ripley novels, like The Talented Mr. Ripley is probably a title most people are familiar with.
Yes.
Andrew Scott plays Thomas Ripley.
I love Andrew Scott. Oh my God.
He's a fantastic actor.
I first encountered him as Moriarty in the Sherlock series.
Yes.
He's just fantastic.
The whole thing is filmed in black and white, striking cinematography. Created and directed by Steven Zaillian.
Okay, that's a name we know.
Jeff, you will enjoy this movie. There's a lot of Hitchcockian shots in this where the viewer sees something, like some evidence that nobody else knows is there. It's a tense show, so well crafted, deliberately paced. It takes its time. There are 20-minute sequences where there's no dialogue at all. You're just watching Thomas Ripley do his thing, and he's so fascinating.
I will watch this.
Yes, you should. You absolutely should. I think you will love it.
I'm in. All right, we're going to duck out of the Campbell Cafe and head back to the studio for Act 2.
Act 2 of the hero's journey begins with the road of trials, or tests, allies, and enemies. Having crossed the first threshold, the hero meets allies, makes enemies, and must pass a series of tests to prove their worthiness. Harry's got some good allies here.
Yeah, he does.
He's got Albert Gibb Gibson, played by Tom Arnold. I thought Tom Arnold did a fantastic job.
Amazing. So funny.
Yes, he was a great partner to Arnold Schwarzenegger. The two of them became friends on the show and are friends to this day.
Wow.
We also have Faisal, played by Academy Award winner Grant Heslov.
What?
Yeah, Grant Heslov was a producer on Argo
Oh.
in 2008, 2009, and they won Best Picture. So he, as producer, took home an Oscar for that.
Oh, I did want to put that Tom Arnold and Arnold Schwarzenegger's couple name, like Bennifer, is Arnold Arnold.
That's good.
Okay. I'm right.
I like it.
Yeah.
We also have, I put Helen as an ally. I struggled with whether or not she was a shapeshifter, but she's not ever an antagonist to Arnold. But I know we talk about in romance stories, and James Cameron says himself, True Lies is a love story first and foremost.
Yeah.
And that the love interest can be an antagonist in a romantic story because...
They're forcing you to change.
Right. But
I had her as an ally too.
I put Helen as an ally.
She's got his back. She loves him. She's never against him.
Yeah.
She may transgress against him, but she never pushes back. She accepts that he's who he is, and she doesn't really try to change him. She gives him opportunities, but she's going to go find what she needs elsewhere.
Helen, of course, played by Academy Award winner Jamie Lee Curtis.
That's right. A long time coming.
Enemies. Aziz, the leader of this splinter faction of terrorists. He's played by Art Malik. Of course, all of the faction members. Juno Skinner. And my favorite character in the movie, Simon, played by Bill Paxton, whom we have not yet met.
Oh.
But Bill Paxton has some incredible performances throughout his career. I think this one might be my favorite.
Agreed. He pushes the boundaries of what works for comedy relief in an action movie. And it's not like a lot of the comedy in this movie is James Cameron's direction. Like during the horse car chase, you'll cut to, bystanders and their confused looks. And that's director/writing comedy. But Bill Paxton, it's all the way he plays it. I mean, he could have been just a slimy dude, but he's so funny, and he turns on his comic turns where he goes from really serious to totally terrified. He hams it up, but in a way that totally works somehow.
Yeah. On to tests. Test number 1, I thought, was Happy Birthday, Harry. We talked about this a little bit in your refusal of the call, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Gib is driving Harry home after work, and they spot a tail. The man from Juno Skinner's office who slapped the snot out of her, and 2 other men are in a car following Gib and Harry.
Yeah.
They pull over. Harry gets out and he puts on the sunglasses and cigarette case camera we saw in Act 1. Harry enters a restroom in a fancy building across the street, sets up the little surveillance camera on the counter facing the urinals, and pretends to pee. And the 2 men walk in and attack him. And what ensues is, I think maybe was at the time the best bathroom battle scene.
Yes.
Maybe has now been eclipsed by the one from Mission Impossible Fallout.
I haven't seen that, but I was going to say Casino Royale, the first Daniel Craig movie, is a great bathroom fight, but I think it's great because there's so much James Bond references in True Lies. I thought it was nice that there's a Bond movie that maybe borrowed some of this bathroom fight.
Really?
Yeah.
So Harry ends up defeating the 2 assailants as the 3rd man, who took the opportunity with Gib being on the phone and a bus pulling in front to block Gib's view of him, has gotten out of the car and followed into the building. He busts into the bathroom and attacks Harry just as he's handcuffing the other guy. Manages to get a gun, starts shooting. The third assailant flees, and we are then treated to a foot race through the street. The terrorist steals a motorcycle. Harry has to steal a policeman's horse, and now we've got a horse and motorcycle chase through the streets. They go into a building, up the elevators, onto the roof. The terrorist jumps his motorcycle off the roof, across the street, into the swimming pool, the rooftop swimming pool in the building across the street. Harry tries to chase him with the horse, but the horse has better self-preservation instincts and pulls up short, throws Harry over the side, and Harry has to drop his gun to hold on to the reins. And as the terrorist escapes, Harry scolds the horse for being a bad cop.
With the exception of a couple of James Bond movie chases, this is my favorite chase sequence in action movie history.
Really?
It is so dynamic. The stunts are so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The moments of comedy that intercut, he crashes through a jazz combo. The horse is in the elevator and the tail whipping the woman in the face. I mean, the details. James Cameron's like, okay, we have to do this sequence of the horse in the elevator. How can we make it funny? How can we make it tense? Like they just really took the care to make each little incident in that sequence either terribly tense and exciting or hilarious. I don't think there's ever been another horse and motorcycle chase sequence in a movie ever. I don't know how you make something original in an action movie, but he did it.
So this test is a pass. Although Harry didn't apprehend the suspect, he did acquire a clue as to the suspect's identity when they are riding up adjacent glass elevators and they stare each other down, and Harry imprints that man's eyes into his memory. And that is what he uses later to identify him.
Right.
Test number 2, Harry returns home late, obviously. It is now like 1:45. Helen's asleep at the dining room table with an unlit birthday cake, balloons decorating the room. Harry apologizes for being late. He puts his hand on her shoulder and she reaches up and squeezes his hand, and Arnold winces. Like tiny little 5'7" Jamie Lee Curtis makes 6'2", 300-pound Arnold Schwarzenegger wince in pain.
Ow.
And she says, "It's okay, Harry." She pats his hand. "It's okay." Is this a pass? Maybe. I don't know. Helen is a very forgiving, patient woman.
I call it a fail because if the challenge is to be a better husband and father and to pay less attention to work and more attention to wife, that's just big fail.
But he did address the situation. He didn't ignore it. He could have gone upstairs and gone to bed and hopefully she'll be over it in the morning. Some men handle things that way.
Yeah, I guess we haven't
Harry
seen...
doesn't. He actually addresses the situation.
We haven't seen their prior relationship. Does he apologize when he's late? Because it seems like, Harry, and all this time you can count on me. It seems like he's constantly apologetic.
Well, he apologizes a lot throughout the movie. He apologizes to the cop when he steals his horse.
Yeah, that's right.
He apologizes to the couple in the elevator when he's leaving.
Very considerate man.
He apologizes. He's a very polite guy.
Yeah.
For someone who shoots people for a living. All right. Test number 3. Harry peruses his agency database to find last night's suspect, recognizing him by his eyes. The eyes, Chico. They never lie. He identifies the subject as Salim Abu Aziz. The team then present their new findings to Spencer Trilby.
This guy's really hardcore, highly fanatical. The man's a real psycho. He's been linked to dozens and dozens of car bombings. Hey, you know that cafe bomb in Rome last year? That was his. As well as the 727 out of Lisbon. This guy's a major player.
Now he's formed his own splinter faction called Crimson Jihad.
Yeah, I guess he thought the other terrorist groups were a little too warm and fuzzy for his taste.
So this is a pass. They have dug up information. They have identified their primary suspect, and Trilby wants more. Go find him.
After which the terrorists disappear from the screen for nearly 45 minutes. Amazing.
Test number 4. Harry has Gibbs stop at Helen's office so he can take her to lunch. Harry's approaching Helen's cubicle, but he overhears Helen's colleague telling her that the mystery man is on line 2. So Harry stops, eavesdrops as he listens to Helen agree to meet this Simon right away.
Oops.
And Harry, he's been gut punched.
Yeah.
He walks across the street, tells Gibb that Helen's having an affair. Gibb tries to cheer him up in a variety of different ways. Welcome to the club, man. Then he says, hey, Helen still loves you. She's just out having a little fun. And when Harry slams Gibb up against the car and says, stop cheering me up, that's when Gibb gets straight with him. He says, what did you expect? Helen's a flesh and blood woman and you're never there. It was only a matter of time. At home that night at the dinner table, Harry tells Helen, hey, I stopped by your office. I thought we might have lunch. And Helen spouts a story about having to leave the office to rush some documents down to the courthouse. And this copy machine didn't take this thing. And so I had to run up and
elaborate lie.
Yeah, big story. And it was interesting. We've not seen Helen do this. This is the kind of lie that Harry would spin in his role as a counterterrorism spy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that Helen would ever be in a position to tell this kind of lie before. But unknown to her, Harry already knows the truth. But otherwise, that would probably be a pretty convincing story. Test number 5. Gibb briefs Harry on all the wiretaps that he has placed on the Crimson Jihad members and Juno Skinner. But Harry orders Gibb to put a wiretap on Helen's phone. Gibb objects, but Harry resorts to slamming Gibb up against the wall again. So Gibb agrees to do it. And then Harry reads the first transcript from the tap. It's Simon, and he needs to see Helen tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
And I love how they play out the action of the transcript.
Yes, it's not just Harry reading it. We actually see the scene play. Yeah, I think that was a really neat way to do that. So again, back at home, Harry asks Helen if she'd like to have lunch tomorrow, and Helen spins another lie. Oh, she and Allison are going shopping. And so while Helen is still on her stationary bike, Harry grabs her purse, tosses it out the window to Gibb. Gibb puts in a GPS tracker, an audio transmitter, all kinds of other stuff. And that's what they're going to use to track her the next day. So I love the pacing of this sequence of events, because then immediately cut to the next day, Harry and Gibb are in the car following Helen. It's a really well-paced
Very
scene.
tight.
They track her. She goes to a Chinese restaurant, goes inside. They then switch to audio so they can hear from the purse transmitter. And now we get to meet in person for the first time Simon, played by Bill Paxton.
You sure you weren't followed?
No, I mean, I kept looking behind me like you taught me, but I didn't see anyone.
Okay, it's just things are a bit hot right now. If I get a signal, I may have to leave suddenly.
His dialogue makes it sound like he's also a spy.
Right.
He even fools Gibb. Gibb says, this guy's a spook. Like, but for what agency?
Right.
And then Simon starts taking credit for, hey, did you hear about the thing with the shootout downtown and the horse chase and the motorcycle? That was me. And then they know, oh, this guy's taking credit for our actions.
Harry's murderous and Gibb is amused.
Yeah.
I like this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we still got to kill him.
Yeah, obviously.
So after Simon and Helen's meeting, they follow Simon to a used car lot.
The guy is a goddamn used car salesman. I mean, this keeps getting better and better. I'm sorry, Harry. I know this has got to be painful. But you got to admit, it's pretty damn funny. I mean, if it was just some idiot, not you, you'd be laughing your ass off. I mean,
Harry then gets out and he pretends to shop for a used car, specifically that 1959 red Corvette. Simon comes out, takes him for a test drive. And this is where we start to get Simon's story.
Just ask yourself, what do women really want? You take these bored housewives married to the same guy for years, they're stuck in a rut. They need some release. Promise of adventure, a hint of danger. I create that for them.
Harry says, so you're basically lying your ass off the whole time. I could never do that.
Uh-huh.
But here's the difference. Simon's lies are predatory.
Mm-hmm.
Harry's are protective. He's trying to keep his family safe by telling as few people as possible, including them, what he really does.
I love that the symmetry that Simon is a salesman pretending to be a spy and Harry's a spy pretending to be a salesman. That's just great writing.
Yeah. Then Simon's talking about how he's got all these women on the hook, but there's this one. And he proceeds to describe, not name, but describe Helen. We know by the description that it's Helen. And Harry is trying to coax information out of Simon, trying to get a clue about whether or not there's been any sexual activity between the two of them. And before Simon can answer that, they arrive at the used car lot. Conversation ends. Simon asks if he wants to buy the car, and Harry asks him to hold it.
I love Paxton's response when Harry says, hold it for me. At first, he's sort of devastated, and then he's kind of amused, like, all right, man, because it's you.
Sure, I got a couple of buyers on the line, but I like your style.
Hey, that's a good Bill Paxton. Very subtle.
And that was the last test for me.
What about their husbands?
Dickless. I mean, let's face it, if they took care of business, I'd be out of business. You know what I mean?
Those idiots.
Approach to the inmost cave. The hero reaches the edge of a dangerous place where the object of their quest is hidden. We've taken a break from the terrorist plot here, and we're focusing on the love story because that is the heart of this film. We've had lots of lies. We haven't had much truth yet, and we're approaching the reckoning with the truth, which I think is the true heart and turning point of this film. So the approach is intercepting Helen and Simon and catching them. Harry bullies another page of a transcript out of Gibb and discovers that Helen is about to meet Simon under the Key Bridge. He redirects surveillance from the terrorist op to follow his wife.
Right.
And Gibb is like, what are you doing?
Yep.
Helen meets Simon under the bridge and gets into the same 59 Corvette he was trying to sell Harry in the last scene.
Yep.
And he pushes her head down into his lap so she can hide from surveillance.
Uh-huh.
And so naturally, after his dirty talk in the last scene, Harry assumes she's performing a lewd vehicular act. Some of these
Is
things,
that how it shows up on a police report?
I mean, some of these things are like, how do I make this hero's journey appropriate and yet clear? So Simon takes her to his trailer, which he claims is like a safe house, but it's clearly the dump where he lives.
Oh, yeah.
And they drink wine out of plastic cups. So they look like real wine glasses. And then when they clink, it's like click. That was such a great choice to use glasses that look like wine glasses. And then that sound is a surprise. I love that. And he asks her to be his wife so he can pose as a married man on his mission to Paris. So now he's saying, I'm going to take you to Paris. He's even put plane tickets to Paris that he's somehow acquired on the table so she can accidentally see them. And she agrees to do it. This is the excitement she's been hungering for and the romance that's been missing. So she agrees to do it, and then he's like, right on. So we have to look completely intimate. We're going to have to look like husband and wife, so we got to do something. So he starts making moves, and oh my God, Jamie Lee Curtis trying to escape from his octopus-like maneuvers where he's trying to get on her. Is hilarious. Her physical work is hilarious. She's like trying to push him.
She's amazing in
this.
Oh my
God. But it's all motivated by she doesn't want to betray her husband. And this really is crossing a line for her. And she doesn't want to be unfaithful. And she said, I can't do this. I can't do this. And she pushes him away. And Bill Paxton, bless you, Bill Paxton, looks at her and says,
if not for me, do it for your country.
Just pathetic. He's trying so hard to get laid.
Oh, my God. Oh, he's so good.
Suddenly, the power in the trailer goes out. A helicopter closes in, and the back end of the trailer, I don't know how, it's like sawed off. It looks like by a cutting torch. It is just boom, and it comes off. And, of course, he falls onto the couch. She's got her legs spread. So the first thing Harry sees is him on top of his wife with her legs open.
Legs in the air. Her feet are in the air.
Akimbo.
Screaming.
Yeah, but he can't hear her over the helicopter. He probably can't hear that. So Harry's team, all in ski masks, moves in and grabs them and yanks them out of the trailer and is dragging them toward the van. Simon puts up no resistance. He yells, take her, take her.
Take her, not me.
But Helen puts up a fight. She knees Gibb right in the crotch and tries to run. And then Harry grabs her and tries to put her in the van, but she bites him and he lets go. And then one of the other team members, not knowing that that's Harry's wife, clocks her with the butt of his gun. And then Harry turns around and punches him out for hitting his wife.
Again, there's a lot. It's an action scene. It's an exciting action scene, but there's a lot of comedy in it.
Oh,
It's just so great. It's so great.
It's a great line. So then they take them away in a van. Now that's where I drew the line before ordeal.
Agreed.
Oh,
The Ordeal, where the hero faces a central crisis, sometimes actually appearing to die. Helen is tossed into an empty cement interrogation room with a single metal stool sitting underneath a spotlight in front of one of those two-way interrogation windows. And using voice modulation to disguise their voices from the other side of the mirror, Harry and Gibb question Helen about her relationship with quote-unquote international terrorist Carlos the Jackal.
the voice changer also completely eliminates Arnold's Austrian accent, by the way. Because if you were married to Arnold Schwarzenegger and you lowered it, "Hey, honey, what were you doing with him?" It changes his accent completely.
You know what? AI technology.
That's right. And they had it way before we knew about it.
Yeah. Hey, Omega Sector's got the technology before any of the rest of us do.
That's right.
I mean, so many of the technological advances that the public now enjoys began as military advancements.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Harry asks how the two of them met. And then again, we see a little flashback as the scene is played out. Helen's in that Chinese restaurant having lunch, reading a book by herself. Simon walks by with a briefcase, sees her, locks in and says, "Oh, here's one I can have some fun with." And then pretends to be frantic and harried, slides into the chair next to her and says, "Hold this for me. I can't be taken alive with it. I'll contact you. And it's a matter of national security." And he runs off. And she's like, "What? No, I don't want any part of this." He flees. She takes the briefcase to her office, pops it open, finds currency from a variety of different countries, passports, airplane tickets, maps for Kuwait and other countries, and a gun. And she slams that briefcase shut.
Maybe you can close this loop for me so I can imagine ways this would happen, but how does he contact Helen again? Does he just hang out at that restaurant and wait for her?
I suspect that he waited outside and followed her back to her office, and he says, "Oh, she works at the courthouse. I can figure out who she is from there."
We just have to assume all that.
Because also, where does he get all of these foreign currencies? Where does he get these again, there's more airplane tickets in this briefcase. Where is he getting all that stuff?
He's very resourceful for a guy who's completely lame.
He is. All right, so Gibb and Harry ask, "Why did you continue to see this guy?" And she said she wanted to feel alive. He said he needed me. She wanted to do something exciting and feel needed by somebody.
And special and trusted.
Yes, and she's saying this to her husband on the other side. She doesn't know that she's saying that to. And then Harry tries to coax out some information in the same way he tried to coax information from Simon. He just comes right out and say it. "Were you sleeping with him?" Asks her a couple of times. This pisses her off. She grabs the stool, starts slamming it into this window, breaks it, not shatters it, but does enough damage to it to spiderweb it, screaming, "No," with every hit of the stool, "I did not sleep with him." And Harry says, "Well, there's only one thing for us to do. You must work for us, or we're going to throw you in prison for being associated with Carlos the Jackal." It's just like, okay, I guess I'm going to do it. Don't really have much of a choice. And Gibb is like, "Harry, what the heck are you doing?" And Harry says, in the same way that Simon says, "I create a little danger. I create a little adventure for them. It excites them." He says, she wants a little adventure. I'm going to give her one. Like you said, this is the reckoning with the truth.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would just be called lies.
I've only one more question, Mrs. Tasker.
What?
Do you still love your husband?
Yes, I love him. I've always loved him. And I will always love him.
That brings us to reward, the ultimate boon. Having faced his worst fear, the hero seizes the object of his quest. Now, the thing you just mentioned, I think, is part of the reward, which is he hears the truth.
Agreed.
I do love him. I've always loved him. Always will love him. That's the thing that's been missing for him. And knowing that now is the key for him to reconnect and fully commit to his marriage again. The next part of the reward is, to me, the most quotable, funny scene in the movie. They take Simon to like the side of a dam or some kind of thing, and they hold him over a ledge, and they're pretending to interrogate him as if he's the terrorist.
Yeah.
And they hold a gun on him, and he just confesses everything and tells him who I am. And then he says the best line in the movie, which I can't quote because it's, "I got a little one, it's pathetic." And then he pees himself.
Yes.
And Harry is equally amused and disgusted by him, and says, "Get out of here." But Bill Paxton's like, no. If I turn around, you're going to shoot me. And they're just like, "Get out of here." And then he's like, "Well, how about if I give you the car for free?" It's just,
and he's in his boxer shorts. They've stripped him down to his boxer shorts and a tank top.
So, for sure, humiliating Simon after all the humiliation he caused Harry. I mean, you could call that revenge, but man, that's a sweet, sweet reward, I think.
That is absolutely.
For him.
It 100% is, yes.
Well, that's where I drew the line. You got more reward?
Oh, no, Jeffrey. No.
No, you're going to put that in reward?
That's a reward, yes. Because, the next scene is the op that Harry, or Boris, as his code name is, sends Helen, or Doris, on. Boris and Doris. They send her on an op to the suite at the Marquis Hotel. There is a suspected arms dealer there who likes to watch. So dress sexy.
You're going to pretend to be a prostitute.
This is all done surreptitiously through envelopes and phone calls with voice modulators. She doesn't actually meet them in person.
All right.
And you have to put the bug by the telephone before you leave, or the deal is off. So Helen goes to the hotel, gets the envelope with the bug in it, goes into this room. Ooh, I forgot to mention before, Gibb is overseeing another agent in the Omega Sector. Recording these lines.
No. Turn around. Do it doucement. Do it very slowly.
Is that the only one we hear him say? Anyway, the point why this is hysterical is because the script that this guy is recording, obviously Harry knew that when Helen is asked to dance, that she would not dance sexy. And so there's dialogue recorded on this tape to tell her, no, stop doing it that way. Do it sexy.
Do it sexy.
Because he knew she wasn't going to do it right. That's hysterical.
Yes, that's good writing.
Now she goes in to the hotel room, and Arnold is sitting in the dark with this cassette player. She starts this awkward dance, and Arnold plays the line, no, do it slowly, dance sexy. And then the music kicks in, and Jamie Lee Curtis / Helen, I don't know how much of this was Helen and how much of it was Jamie Lee Curtis, does a full-on pole dance on the bedpost. And my brother, wow.
She's stunning.
Wow, Jamie Lee Curtis. She did a lot of, she said, physical conditioning to get herself into shape for this scene, because she knew this scene was going to be, originally the scene was supposed to be in the dark with just a silhouette.
Right.
She told James Cameron, no, let's do it in the full light. Let's completely make Helen vulnerable, not only to what she thinks is a suspected arms dealer, but to the audience as well. It was
admirable. I was going to say this for tidbits, but I love that they at least once showed her on an exercise bike, because I hate it in movies when you see people with stunning bodies, but they never get off the couch and they're eating cheeseburgers. Like, that's so irresponsible. But the fact that you see her just sweating and almost dead on this bike, it's like, okay, so thank you for at least making a nod toward this person has to work to be fit like that. Because that frustrates me in movies, unless they're superheroes.
And one little detail that I forgot to mention that comes into play later is that before she goes into the room, Helen takes her wedding ring off and puts it on her right hand.
Yes.
That's an important detail because she has to look like a prostitute, so she can't be married. All right, so Jacques tells her, lie on the bed and close your eyes. And Harry takes a rose and caresses Helen from her forehead down to her neck and starts to kiss her. And this is why I included this scene in the reward, because Helen gets the adventure that she was looking for. She gets to be not only adventurous, but...
This is Helen becoming fully self-expressed.
Yes.
She's unbottling all the stuff that she's been holding in. And I think you're right. Harry provided her this opportunity.
Yes.
And the way you talked about him knowing what to put on the voiceover, he knew that on some level this was in her and that she needed permission to be this way. So I get it. It may appear, if you watched a clip on YouTube or something, that it appears gratuitous, but it is totally motivated by character and plot and story. 100%.
And it is an intimate moment between husband and wife.
Agreed.
Harry goes to kiss Helen. She's on the bed with her eyes closed. She grabs the phone and brains him with it. Kicks him.
Ow.
Just beats him.
Yeah.
Until he's on the ground, just groaning in pain. She puts the bug. She completes her mission.
Yeah, she does it.
Puts the bug on the phone and starts to run out. And he catches his breath and calls her...
Helen, wait.
She turns around and sees that it's her husband.
Harry.
That's the end of the reward and the end of Act 2.
What a journey so far. You've definitely brought me around on the last test versus approach versus ordeal. So I appreciate you guiding me back on track there. Let's go have a drink.
Oh, yes.
Listeners, welcome to the Vogler Lounge. This is the segment where we share the adult beverage themed to the episode that we have chosen. Dan, do you want to reveal the beverage you have chosen?
I have stated already that Simon is my favorite character.
Oh, yeah.
Simon drinks what I can only assume is cheap bottom shelf wine. Based on what we saw in his trailer when he's seducing Helen. True Lies was James Cameron's 6th motion picture.
Oh, boy.
So I went to the store with a goal of finding what appears to be a white wine. Maybe it was a rosé that Simon was serving to Helen. A bottle of that was no more than $6.
Oh, boy. Oh, what if it's the best wine you've ever had?
Then suddenly I like Simon a whole lot more. So I have a bottle of white Merlot from Beringer Vineyards from their Main and Vine imprint. I don't know what you call it. When their line,
sub-label?
I suppose. Label, Jeffrey. That is the best way to put it. I could have gone with a rosé. I went looking for a white Zinfandel.
Okay.
Because I thought, looking at the wine that he serves to her, maybe it was like a really pale white Zinfandel. So that was my goal. Then I saw the white Merlot. And I immediately thought back to Sideways.
Yes.
When he says, I am not drinking any effing Merlot. And I thought, okay, let's connect these two.
Yes.
And so now I have the white Merlot.
I didn't know there was a white Merlot grape.
It's not a grape. It's a Merlot grape, which is a red grape.
But they peel it?
But when they make a white Merlot, they remove the skins before fermentation.
Huh.
Also, in honor of Simon.
Plastic. Oh, look at this. Oh, I wish you could see this plastic cup.
I have a plastic...
It looks just like the ones they have, too. Where did you find that? Or did you have it in your...
No, we have a picnic basket.
Oh, my God.
That has plastic plates and plastic wine glasses that we'll take whenever we go to any of those like movie in the park stuff.
You've got to put a photo of that on the website because that
100%.
Oh, click it for us one more time.
It even like echoes.
Yeah, it's got resonance to it, doesn't it? Oh God.
All right, let's pour this bad boy. I'm going to go with not quite a Brad Pitt pour.
I was going to say it's also got connections to Silence of the Lambs too, because Buffalo Bill would have skinned his grapes.
Ah, well done. All right, so I don't know if you can see it. I don't think there's enough light behind this for you to get a good look at it, but it does have a very Kool-Aid-y look. It's a very deep pink. It smells fruity, like I feel like I'm going to quote Miles from Sideways, but strawberry, not the cheese.
I knew that was coming.
I have to do it, Jeff.
I know.
I have to. Anytime wine smells like strawberry, I have to say not the cheese. It's a Pavlovian response now.
I'm fully aware.
Yeah, that's all I'm getting is strawberries, just fresh strawberries. So let's take a sip.
In a bed of sweet soil or just by themselves?
Another thing to note is that this white Merlot does not have a vintage identified. So who knows? It was probably bottled last week. Holy sweet. Oh my God.
The face he's making.
That's even sweeter than the one I had last month. But it dissipates pretty quickly. I seem to remember last episode my wine was super sweet, but then it left a sandpapery. This one's not doing that. This one's like a Kool-Aid. It's sweet, not quite that sweet though. It's tempered a bit. But this would actually be really good on a hot day.
In your trailer?
Outside. If I were, sitting on the little porch in my folding chair.
The question is, how bad are you going to feel tomorrow morning if you drink half a bottle?
Yeah, what's the alcohol content on this? Oh, it's only 11.4. Pretty low for wine. Usually wine I feel like is around 13 or 14. Yeah, you know what? That's not bad.
Huh.
I expected to do a spit take with this, but I probably won't buy this often, if ever. But
unless times get really hard.
But as an experiment, yeah, this is actually palatable. I'm surprised. Jeff, this bottle cost me $4.38, including tax and California redemption value added.
Wow.
$4.38.
Wow. And that's not including like the nickel for a second bottle of wine Bevmo deal. That's just the retail price of that wine.
Yeah, I got this at the grocery store.
Oh.
Bottom shelf, of course.
That's amazing.
Beringer, Main and Vine, White Merlot.
Pick yourself up a bottle today at John's Market.
For $4.38. All right, what do you have?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier that the horse and motorcycle chase is my favorite sequence in this film and possibly my favorite chase sequence outside of a James Bond movie in film history. I'm out of bourbon. I found a bourbon called Wheel Horse.
No way. Wow.
Wheel Horse, non-chill filtered 101 proof bourbon whiskey.
Whoa. Oh, 101 proof.
Made in Owensboro, Kentucky. It says batch 1 on the bottle, but I think that's a pre-printed bottle label that doesn't actually refer to a real batch.
I don't think that's legal to do.
Wheel Horse bourbon is crafted and matured at the historic O.Z. Tyler Distillery in Owensboro, Kentucky. As the 10th oldest permitted distillery in the state, O.Z. Tyler has a rich history that dates back to the late 1800s. Now the distillery continues its legacy of making excellent bourbon under the direction of master distiller Jacob Call. Using a mash of 70% corn, 21% rye, and 9% malted barley, Wheel Horse bourbon is distilled in copper stills, then matured in hand-selected 53-gallon charred American oak barrels for a minimum of 2 years. Like all of our whiskeys, Wheel Horse bourbon is bottled without chill filtration. So, it's going to be powerful.
It really is, dude. My wine is 11.4%. Your whiskey is 55% alcohol by volume.
It's dark. It is a very dark amber. There's nothing pale about it. It has almost a reddish. I would have said this was brandy barrel aged if I was just looking at it because it's really dark. It has a reddish hue to it. All right, let me smell. Okay, caramel and ethanol.
Jeez.
It's not as bad as I thought. Usually when I take a second sniff, I get that coughing sensation, but it's not.
Not yet.
That
101
smells.
Proof.
I would have expected to like go.
I believe that you're getting ethanol, but it's impressive that it's not making you hack.
All right, here we go. Oh. Okay.
Here it comes.
Oh boy. It's got a caramel flavor that devolves rapidly into that rye pepperiness. Oh, my mouth is watering. It's 21% rye, so it's got that peppery kind of rye.
Yeah.
And then just burning all the way down. Oh God. I'm gonna put an ice cube in there for the rest of my sip, but that's
Yeah, this one you might add a little bit of water and see if that mellows it out a bit. That would be a good experiment.
You know what I was thinking? I could add half an ounce of simple syrup and a dash of bitters and like an orange peel.
Yeah.
And then I would actually have an old fashioned.
You're just making an old fashioned.
Oh man. All right. Well, I put an ice cube in there.
Okay.
Let me see. The ice cube actually just went straight to, it's sublimed like dry ice because of the.
So in a few minutes, we'll have to check back in and see if the melting of the ice cube has done anything.
That's an aggressive whiskey. I don't know that I would drink that straight without letting the ice sphere. I haven't put a second ice cube in there, actually. Well, I'll let that one melt and see how it is. Woof! Wheelhorse whiskey from Kentucky. All right, well, as I cleanse my throat with the fire, just like Arnold uses in Act 3, we'll slide into Act 3.
Act 3 begins with the road back. The hero is pursued by vengeful forces he disturbed when he seized the object of his quest.
Before you jump in, I just wanted to say that Jamie Lee's beating up of Harry, I put that in vengeful forces because he's paying for his deception.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I had said during the reward that this is an intimate moment between husband and wife, but she doesn't know that.
Right.
And so when she attacks him, when she fights back, that's her fighting back against someone who is touching her in a way that she has not authorized because she doesn't know that that is her husband.
But it's also a reward because it's a demonstration of her loyalty.
Yeah.
That there was a line.
There's that too, yeah.
Oh, now, an action movie with this much subtlety and character development, I mean, this is what makes James Cameron so great.
Okay. Terrorists break into the hotel suite just as Harry has revealed his identity to Helen, snatch the two, and Helen, in her role, thinking that she's on an op for some government agency, is telling Harry, shut up and let me handle this. Like, they're here for me.
Yeah.
And he's saying, let the hooker go. She's got nothing to do with this. I'm the one you want. So that is a great comedic moment there.
What a setup.
As they're being dragged out of the hotel room.
What a
Harry,
setup.
let me handle this. Like, what are you going to do, Helen? All right. The terrorist van rendezvous with Juno's private jet.
Harry.
I wish I could say it's nice to see you again, Juno.
You know her? So who's your little friend?
I'm Helen Tasker. Harry is my husband. And you are?
Also not Tasker, not Rehnquist.
On the plane, the flight attendant injects the Taskers with a knockout agent as the plane takes off. They wake up in the Florida Keys. Well, they wake up on an island. We know it's the Florida Keys. They don't yet. But Juno introduces Harry to 4 ancient statues dating back to Darius the First, 500 BC. They're priceless Persian artifacts. And then the terrorists rip them apart to reveal that they've been used to smuggle the 4 MERV warheads into the United States. Oh! I forgot something! Doggone it! We're going to do it right now. Hold your glass. Hold up your glass.
Mm-hmm.
This should have been done at the end of the drinking segment. We have a new patron.
Oh, yes!
Matthew Clement has joined at the hero level. Here's to Matthew. Thank you so much for supporting the Hero's Journey podcast. And hope you have a great day. All right, back to the road back. Our heroes are now on an island. Aziz is there, and he forces Harry to record a video confirming that the terrorists are now a nuclear power in possession of 4 warheads, and they have the capability to detonate them.
Yes.
And then the terrorists rip apart Helen's purse and discover the transmitter. Cut to Gibbs and Faisal in a government jet, racing to the signal, and then Aziz stomps the signal under his boot. The signal goes dead inside the government jet. Faisal has lost the signal, but they know the general location now, so they're still headed that direction. Now we have one of my favorite scenes in the movie, the truth serum. Juno leads the taskers into a dilapidated cement block workshop where they are handcuffed to chairs facing each other, and a man named Samir, who is wearing a rubber apron, always worrisome when you are confronted with a gaunt man with a wild look in his eye wearing a rubber apron.
And with a roll of what look like surgical tools.
He injects Harry with something, and he says, "I will return when this takes effect, then we'll talk." So Helen asks Harry what's going on. Juno says, we've got to give him a little something, because this man has been successfully hiding the truth from his beloved wife for 15 years. So we can't trust anything he says.
Mm-hmm.
She then taunts Helen by wrapping her arms around Harry, trying to make it seem like there was a romantic or even just sexual relationship between the two of them.
I'm telling you, 2 molten ice cubes and that wheel horse tastes like regular whiskey. I mean, I could not tell you that there was melted ice in that whiskey.
Okay.
It tastes like normal whiskey now.
Okay, so now you know that when you have wheel horse, put an ice cube or 2 in it, let them melt, and then enjoy.
There you go.
Wow, we're just bleeding the beverage break deep into Act 3 here.
Well, the listeners have to understand that sometimes we finish the drinks very quickly, and sometimes it takes a while.
Yep. Now, there's one thing I want to point out. When Juno is hanging on Harry and saying, "Did you tell her about us?" And he says, "There is no us." Harry has been injected with a truth serum at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We know he's being honest.
Right.
But Helen doesn't.
Right.
We know that there is no us between Juno and Harry.
There was nothing, I swear.
Yeah, I swear.
It was before we saw the shot where his vision goes all blurry and it's clearly indicating now he's sight. So yeah, I agree.
That's right. Then Juno plants a mouth-to-mouth kiss on Harry to really hurt Helen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, Harry jerks away, looks disgusted. Juno leaves with her bodyguards. Now we start to see the physical effects of the serum. We see from Harry's perspective, he's looking around, and it's like slow motion, blurry camera moves where we're seeing 5 of everything.
Yeah.
And Helen says, "What's going on, Harry?" But it's really echoey and slow motion. She sounds like she's talking through peanut butter. He is now definitely under the effects of this drug that they have injected him with.
It makes you tell the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Is it working?
Ask me questions that I normally would lie to.
Are we gonna die?
Yep.
And then he continues to overstate the truth. They're going to shoot us in the head, or they're going to torture us to death, or they're going to leave us here till the bomb goes off. Harry, shut up. So now Helen is beginning to coax information out of Harry. She wants to know, like, what has her husband been doing for 15 years? And she says, "Have you ever killed anyone?" And Arnold says, "Yeah, but they were all bad." I love that line. I quote that line all the time. Now,
well,
Aziz is root.
Hold on, I got to say 2 things.
Okay.
I know you're trying to move through this, but you left out one of the things that we used in our intro, which was the cameraman is filming Aziz doing his angry terrorist speech,
His manifesto, yeah.
And the battery on the camera starts to fail. And you see the camera guy like shaking, like, oh, please.
Trembling,
he's sweating, like, please let the battery last.
Let us shine a spotlight on that actor.
That guy. And then,
because he was fantastic, I bought that guy knew he was going to die in 30 seconds because the battery's on the camcorder. He was terrified.
So then when it finally goes out and he lowers the camera and he sees Aziz being mad, he speaks and his voice is like 2 octaves higher than you expect. He says, Aziz, battery.
Battery, Aziz.
That guy.
Oh, God. I don't know that actor's name, but he was fantastic in that tiny little role. It's one of those little bitty roles that just elevates a movie. He elevates the scene. It's so great.
In any other movie, they would have taken that whole scene seriously. And James Cameron's like, what if the battery runs out? Is that what happened? Oh, anyway. And then the other thing I just wanted to highlight, more symmetry in the screenplay, which is Harry had an induced confession from Helen, and now Helen gets an induced interrogation of Harry. So
yes,
James Cameron contrived these storytelling circumstances where they were forced to be honest with each other. It was a forced intimacy. And so it's like they both faced these trials and realized they could handle the truth. And it wasn't as bad as they thought. And they really are the same people they've always fallen in love with. That's just such good writing. It's such good writing when you give those characters, it's called True Lies. It's about deception in this marriage, and they both get those opportunities. I just thought that was, when this scene came up again, having watched this movie, I don't know, a lot. Seeing that scene again, I went, oh my God, this is brilliant. It's brilliant.
Okay, so while Helen is interrogating Harry as he's under the influence, Aziz is rooting through Helen's purse and finds a family photo of husband and wife plus baby. Little Dana. Now he knows there is more leverage to be had.
Smart Aziz.
Now, the terrifying Samir, another actor who really owned his role and did a fantastic job. This guy is frightening.
Yeah, I would just have started talking.
He returns to interrogate Harry, and as he's putting on these rubber gloves to match his rubber apron, he says, is there anything you want to tell me before we start? And Harry says, yeah, I'm going to kill you pretty soon, and then proceeds to narrate bullet point by bullet point exactly how he plans to do it. Reveals that he has picked his handcuffs and then executes that plan bullet point by bullet point.
What a badass.
I love this entire sequence of them in this dilapidated workshop. I love this sequence. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Helen is shocked. She's stunned.
Yeah.
Maybe a little interested.
A little turned on there.
A little bit, maybe. Because, she wants the danger and the adventure.
This is what Simon promised her, but in the flesh.
And now she's actually married to it. Harry leads Helen out of the workshop. They're looking for an escape route, but he stumbles as they're walking out the door. Harry is still... You know what? There are a couple of moments in this movie, and one of them is coming up. I laughed.
You do it. You add a whole different vowel than I don't know how you do it.
It's back of your throat. You gotta swallow your tongue. I
can't do it.
Okay. Harry is still under the influence of this serum that they gave him. You could have gotten away without this, I think, but what it does is it does two things. One, it reveals how much of a badass Harry is, because he was able to execute the plan of killing Samir and the guard exactly as he planned it, as he narrated it. So that's how much of a badass he is.
Yeah.
But it also, we've seen Harry do some incredible feats of physical athleticism while also sliding down a snowy mountain on his back, shooting assault rifle wielding ski guards that are coming down after him with pinpoint accuracy. So we know that Harry is lethal.
Yeah.
But him stumbling out that door makes us question a little bit. Is that going to affect his performance in the coming battle.
Right.
So adds a little bit of a question mark. Now we see Aziz and his Crimson Jihad celebrating their impending victory by... Why do they do this? Everybody raises their AK-47s in the air and just fires.
Yeah.
I don't understand that as a celebration. And I'm not saying it's just terrorists that do it. But they are in the Florida Keys. They're on an island. So maybe those bullets go up and they come down into the ocean. But I feel sorry for that fish family of 4 that are about to be perforated on their way home from school. All right. Now, because the terrorists are celebrating their impending victory by shooting their guns in the air, none of them hear Harry loudly dispatch 6 of their comrades,
right,
who have discovered Helen and Harry, have escaped. Now Harry and Helen enter the warehouse where all of the terrorists are. Aziz is giving an inspirational speech to his army, and Harry translates the speech. Now Helen's like, what? My husband speaks Arabic?
It is done. In 90 minutes, a pillar of holy fire will light up the skies to show to the world that we speak the truth.
And then Helen observes, if we're on an island, why are they using trucks? Why are they loading the bombs onto trucks?
Mm-hmm.
And so Harry thinks, aha, we must be in the Florida Keys, which are all connected by bridges. And Helen says they could go anywhere in the U.S. Like from the Florida Keys, there's no border crossings, there's no customs stations, there's nothing to stop them.
Mm-hmm.
Harry then hands Helen, it's either a Uzi or a MAC-10, I'm not sure, but it is a small machine pistol. And as the terrorists are loading these trucks with their bombs, Harry ambushes them, causes quite a commotion, kills a bunch of them, uses a grenade against a bunch of fuel barrels, causes a giant explosion, gets rid of a bunch of them. But then he gets caught into a chokehold by a burly terrorist who rivals Arnold in size. And Helen tries to help with her Uzi, but of course she's never fired one before, so she's not prepared for the recoil. And in a 30-second Jar Jar Binks moment, drops the gun, it cartwheels down the stairs in slow motion, each bounce causing a discharge of rounds that just so happen to connect with the stream of terrorists who are entering the area in almost a perfect line, killing all of them.
I deeply resent you invoking Jar Jar Binks.
You cannot tell me that you did not think of that when you saw this moment.
Unlike in the films and TV episodes that contain Jar Jar Binks, the comic tone of this movie and the role of Luck has been clearly established for 2 hours before this happens, making it the culmination of those elements, not a cheap, lame, ineffective, unprinting, oops, I slipped on a banana peel. This is the culmination of that, in my opinion.
All right, Morgan.
All right. Hey, you keep antagonizing me. See what happens. I saw a bottle of wine that was called Morgan. And I wish I had seen that before the Good Will Hunting episode, because that would have been way better than Bushmills.
The terrorists are loading a warhead onto a helicopter. They take off as Harry dual wields Uzis and turns the hose of a fuel truck into a flamethrower against all of the terrorists that are still on the ground. Helen is a mixture of horrified and impressed. Aziz appears, shoots an RPG at the fuel truck that Arnold is hiding behind, forcing him to dive into the water. But Helen doesn't know that. The terrorists don't know that. They think they have dispatched Harry. And as they celebrate what they think is a victory, Juno captures a mourning Helen and says, "My condolences to the widow." Helen turns around and again, Juno, taking a beating, slaps Juno right across the face, carving a gash across her cheek. Juno grabs Helen's hand and sees that Helen had turned her wedding ring upside down so that the diamond was in her palm.
Helen's a badass.
She is a fighter.
Throughout the film.
Juno then moves to shoot Helen in the head, but Aziz knocks her hand away at the last second. The bullet goes wide, and he tells Juno, "We may need a hostage."
Mm-hmm.
And so now Harry emerges from the water and sees Juno shoving Helen into the back of her limo and sees Aziz board the helicopter that also contains the 4th warhead. We have to remember there is a 90-minute ticking clock on this island because the first warhead has been armed with a 90-minute timer. So this island is about to explode to herald to the world that the Crimson Jihad means business. And Harry is trapped on the island. But fortunately, as the sun rises, Gib and a couple of government helicopters arrive to ferry him to safety. In the air, Gib and Harry are coordinating an evacuation of civilians from a 12-mile radius. He also calls in 2 Marine Corps Harriers, which attack the terrorist convoy, destroy the bridge. 2 of the trucks are destroyed, so now we know there's only 1 warhead left. The one that's in the helicopter.
Our analyses have diverged, and now they're diverging more.
Behind the convoy comes Juno's limousine
Yes.
containing Helen.
Yes.
Helen attacks Juno. They get into a cat fight.
Oh.
A gun goes off, kills the driver. So now the limo is pinballing back and forth across the railings on either side of the bridge as
It's
it
like
drives
a bowling ball between the bumpers.
Yes, that's exactly it. As it drives toward the gap in the bridge far up ahead, Harry and Gib notice the limo. Gib says someone, and I loved this because it reminded me of you. Gib says someone must have capped the driver. You love saying capped when someone gets shot. Capped the driver.
You know where I got that?
True Lies, apparently. Helen climbs out the sunroof.
Get down to the limo!
Harry orders his helicopter to race down there, hover above the limo, and Harry pulls Helen to safety as the limo goes careening off the broken bridge and bye-bye Juno.
I got you! Hold on tight!
Now the helicopters and the Harriers land at minimum safe distance. Gib barks orders at the tourists. Harry, here's why you have this in Harry notices that Helen's wedding ring is on the wrong hand, and he says,
This is the wrong finger.
Harry puts Helen's wedding ring back on her left hand, and as Helen looks at Harry in this moment, we realize that she has forgiven him for his 15 years of lies.
Yeah.
She has seen what he does. She has seen how good he is at it, and knows that he spends every day saving the world in ways most people never see or hear about, and that he has lied about all of it to protect her and their daughter.
Yeah.
And as they kiss, the island nuke detonates behind them. I absolutely see how this is a part of the resurrection because their marriage, their relationship is repaired in this moment. So I will pass it to you then because I'm retroactively agreeing with you now.
All right, well, that brings us to Resurrection. The hero faces death one more time in an ordeal, battle, or showdown. This time the danger's on the broadest scale of the story.
Before you proceed, where did you draw the line between Road Back and Resurrection?
I drew the line where Harry and Helen start attacking the terrorists after they've escaped.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
This really is the beginning of the final battle. And because it's the only time when characters believe that the hero has died. When that fuel truck blows up and Arnold dives into the water, baptism. Helen and the bad guys think he is dead. This is hero appears to die. And then his rescue of Helen, who is about to die and go off that bridge, that's her being resurrected, barely escaping death.
Yeah, I guess that her being in that much danger was a vengeful force. That was a road back. I mean, they're on a road back from the islands up to the mainland. I'm saying that jokingly, but
I see why you put this in the road back. That's why I didn't interrupt or argue, because there's a break from this part of the battle to the final stopping of the terrorists. So I totally get why you sliced it there. But you did stop where I would have argued with you, which is they literally have a wedding where he takes off her ring and puts it on her finger. And then as they kiss, a nuke goes off in the background. That's some powerful loving right there.
Yep.
Okay, so the terrorists aren't dead yet, and we know this. And after they kiss, she does something that's really powerful, which she says to him, go to work. She's giving him permission to step away from the marriage and be the spy again. That's a profound moment. So he runs over to Gib, and Gib says, I got some bad news. Gib says,
I've got to interrupt, though, and say the way Harry says, okay, and then runs away going, bye, like a kid running out the door to go play.
Harry! Hey, Harry, come here!
Go to work.
Okay. Bye.
Yes, that's great. Yeah.
That's another great Arnold comedy moment.
So he runs up to Gib, and Gib says, I got bad news. Aziz is holed up in a high-rise in downtown Miami, and they have your daughter, Dana, hostage. So Harry gets in the Harrier and very clumsily takes off. And there's a great, like, hey, it's been a while since you've been in the cab. And Gib's trying to smooth down, and he, like, crushes a police car with the landing gear. But eventually, he takes off.
Yeah. And again, Gib, in his role as Harry's partner, is trying to talk down the pilot, and he's smoothing things over. He's sweet-talking people. But at the same time, he's trying to talk Harry down. He's saying, it's been 10 years since you've been in one of these things. We've got a guy on the inside. Let's let them handle it.
Poor Gib. He tries to do damage control. So we cut to in the skyscraper where all the terrorists are. Dana is hostage, sitting on a stool. She's not tied up. She's not handcuffed. Clearly, none of these men has a teenager. Aziz opens the remote control suitcase panel for one of the nukes and inserts his key. But just then, the video crew that he asked for, because he's not going to have some amateur with a dead battery on a camcorder anymore.
Right. He learned his lesson.
He asked for a video crew. They show up, and we see that Faisal is the cameraman.
Mm-hmm.
And Aziz steps away to go take care of his terrorist manifesto, as you said earlier. But Dana swipes the nuke key. She's a hero too.
Yep.
As ungrateful as she is, she's using her stealing powers to stop the nuke. I was like, go Dana.
That's right.
Dana escapes and runs away, and Aziz gives chase, and she climbs out on a crane because she's never seen an action movie, so she doesn't know that always goes badly. And then Arnold pulls up, even scarier in the Harrier, and the glass is no barrier as he fires the machine guns and kills all the terrorists inside. And now it's just the dudes on the roof. Cut back to Dana. She's on the crane, and her Doc Marten slips, and she's falling off the crane. But Dad, now warier in the Harrier, pulls up.
No, stop it. You can't.
And it's basically a Dr. Seuss movie. So she falls. Dad basically picks her up. She falls onto the plane. Aziz jumps onto the plane too. Now it's a knife fight. Eventually, Arnold knocks him off, and now he's hanging from one of the missiles by the strap of his assault rifle. And Harry says, "You're fired," and launches Aziz and the missile into the remaining enemy helicopter, making them both merrier in the Harrier.
Oh my
and
God.
Then he lands the plane. He has defeated the terrorists and rescued his daughter.
Did you write all that down, or was that all off the cuff?
Merrier was off the cuff. The rest of it was written.
That was incredible.
But I was proud of...
Scarier in the Harrier, and the glass is no barrier.
See, I was more, honestly, I was more proud of Fast Faisal facilitating filching the files. That was the one that I was really proud of.
That was good. Did you do that already, or when I sent you the Polly's pollsters persistently pounding the pavement, did you decide, I'm going to do some rhyme and shit?
No, I had independently done all this rhyming and alliteration. So when I got that, I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Oh my gosh. The final segment of the hero's journey is the freedom to live or return with the elixir. The hero, having won a precious treasure or reward, now returns to the ordinary world to share the spoils of a battle. The title card tells us that it is 1 year later. The Taskers are having a cheerful family dinner. Their ordeal has brought them closer together. The phone rings. Helen answers it, and we hear that modulated voice. ask for Boris and Doris. And she tells Harry, we're on. Helen is now part of Omega Sector?
And why the modulated voice? Like, they know it's Skib. He's just like into it.
Maybe he's just goofing off. Yeah, he's just
He watched too many episodes of Charlie's Angels, right?
All right, so we cut to another high society party that the Taskers have infiltrated. The Blue Danube is playing. Poor Gib is still in the surveillance van. They haven't seen their contact yet, but they do spot someone they'd like to say hello to.
Uh-huh.
And I get treated to one more Simon scene as he is in a caterer costume, pulling his old routine with a stunning brunette. Boris and Doris confront Lewis, as his name tag says. And as Simon is wont to do, he panics, he wets his pants, and then he runs away. Harry and Helen then dance the tango as Gib in the surveillance van, along with Faisal, scolds them for goofing off and not taking the mission seriously. Roll credits. And Jeff, we have saved the world once again.
Oh, thank goodness.
It's exhausting work, thankless work, but somebody has to do it. Listeners and patrons, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Hero's Journey podcast. Please share us with your friends and your family. Word of mouth remains the greatest way you can support this podcast and keep it going.
Like us on the social medias. Subscribe to us on the social medias. Join us on Patreon and review us on Apple Podcasts. That makes a huge difference. Help us conquer the algorithm, people. You can also find The Hero's Journey on Audible, as well as all other major podcast distributors. If you'd like to financially support the podcast, please visit patreon.com/Hero's Journey Podcast. See if one of the tiers appeals to you.
And thank you to all patrons who make this show possible. I will take one more opportunity to thank our newest patron, Matthew Clement, including our demigod patrons, John Peterson Jr., Scott Sanford, Ricky Garvin, Jeff Scott, Joseph Wilbur, Michelle Calderon, Ami Garvin, Salathiel Jones, Jasmine and Pete Hudson, Mike and Susie Zarzana, Randy Sparks, and Brad Gustafson.
Special thanks to Taylor Jordan for composing our theme music. Thank you to Jason Dorf for the episode artwork. Links to their portfolios can be found on the About page of heroesjourneypodcast.com. If you need illustrations or music, please hire them. They're awesome. The trademark Hero's Journey is used under a license from the Joseph Campbell Foundation. Visit www.jcf.org to learn about how the foundation promotes and celebrates the work of Joseph Campbell.
True Lies is copyright 1994, Lightstorm Entertainment. Thanks again for listening. Until next time,
journey on.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm sick of being in the van. You guys are going to be in the van next time. I've been in the van for 15 years, Harry.